So I'd like to take a look at the first few verses in this week's Parshat Vayeitzei and analyze them alongside with the classic commentators, but take a slightly different angle on what the words in those verses mean. And in order to really understand it, we have to look what happened in the preceding Parsha and understand Yaakov's frame of mind, where he had been coerced by his mother Rivka to deceive his father Yitzchak into obtaining the blessing that was intended for Esav. And he did this, and when Esav found out, he was livid and he wanted to murder Yaakov. And Rivka heard, and she went to Yitzchak under the pretense saying that Yaakov has to leave to find a wife, that he can't take a wife from here. The Bnei Chet, the women of this land are unbearable, and I can't stomach them, and he needs to find a wife, and he should go quite a distance to my brother Lavan. And Yitzchak agrees, and this was a plan to get Yaakov far away from Esav until he cooled down and did not want to murder him anymore. And so Yaakov was forced to do this, and it was really difficult for him. He didn't want to leave his home. Yaakov was a ish tam yoshev ba'ohalim. He was a simple man that liked to reside in the tents. He was happy. He just wanted to be at peace and live at home and have a family life, which we'll see later on that he says that. And it was so difficult for him to have to leave and move on, especially never having cultivated the relationship that he wanted with his father, because as it says in the pasuk that Yitzchak loved Esav, and he never forged the relationship, the bond that Yaakov craved and wanted to have with his father. And now he was forced to leave, never having had that relationship with his father. And he did not want to do that. He didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave his father. His brother wanted to murder him. He's leaving his mother, the only one who still loves him, and he has to go out all by himself on this journey into this house of Lavan, and he has no idea what his future holds, and he's really depressed. And the pasuk starts with Vayeitzei Yaakov, and Yaakov went out. And Siftei Chachamim tell us that this word Vayeitzei is lashon kashet. It's a harsh word, and he has to force himself to push himself, to garner the strength to get up and to go out. He toughens himself to make this move because it was really difficult for him. And he does that, and he goes out from Beersheba to Haran, to the Derech Haran, and Vayifga b'makom, it says, which means he encountered the place. But Vayifga, that's how it's classically interpreted, but it has many meanings, this word Vayifga. And one of the meanings that Rashi says, Vayifga, is prayer. And makom, as we know, is another name of God. We refer to God by different names at different times, and makom is the word, the name that we use for God in times of Avelis, when someone's mourning the death of one of their 7 close family members, and you go to visit them. When you leave, you say Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch sharv le'itzion b'Yerushalayim, and you're asking that God should comfort the mourners. And this word makom is used when people feel like God is distant and they're alone, and they feel abandoned and left. And this is what Yaakov was feeling, and so he prayed to God, this God in his time that he was feeling such a sense of loss, and he pours out his heart in prayers. And Vayileng Sham, and it says that he tarried there all night, and it says Bikiba Hashemesh, which means the sun was setting. But I want to take that as metaphorically, that all the light he felt was going from his life. He could only see darkness ahead. He didn't know what his future held, and he was depressed. And Vayikach me'avnei hamakom, and he took from the rocks of the place, Vayesem me'rashatav, and they say that he put the rocks under his head because he was about to Vayishkav b'makom ahum, to go to sleep for the night. But what I want to say is that it never made sense to me. It's not the most comfortable thing to sleep on a bunch of rocks. You would be much better off taking branches or leaves or something, even a pile of dirt if you're going to lie your head to rest for the night. So I think what it meant was he took from the stone of that place and he put it before his head, like a matzeva, like a headstone. And he just lied down there to die, like thinking that it was all over. He had no future. That's why he tarried there. He didn't want to leave. He didn't want to move on. He just like, God, take me. I just can't move on any longer. That's how depressed Yaakov was. And that's why God came to him in the dream. And God came to him, it says, and he was standing beside him. And God told him, Yaakov, I am here beside you, and I will be with you through everything you go through. I am here for you. You are not alone. And Yaakov sees the angels ascending and descending. And this symbolizes, I believe, that life will have its ups and downs, times where you feel on that, spiritual high, you feel like you're in the clouds and everything's great. And then there are times where you go down and you feel like to the dust of the earth, so low. And God's saying that's normal, Yaakov. That's life. It's okay, because you'll make it through, because I am here through you. I'm here with you through everything. And it's an important lesson. And then he wakes up and he was trembling in fear. He encountered God. He said, this is the house of God. This is surely the gates to heavens. He had this, like, what he felt was almost like a near-death experience and an encounter with God. And he proceeds to make a neder, to make a vow, which is like a deal that he makes with God. And God had just said that he's with him, and he promised him that he would have great offspring that would fill up the whole entire land and spread in all the directions, and such a wonderful future, and all these grand plans for the future. And Yaakov comes back, and when he makes this neder, this vow, this deal that he makes with God, he comes back and he says, in essence, like, that's nice and well, but God, all I want is, will you give me bread to eat and clothing to wear, and return me to my father's house in peace? Because that's all he wanted, was to live in his father's house, peaceful family life. So just, give me what to eat and clothe me until I can finally get back, because that's what I want. That's all I want, is a life of peace in my father's home. And so this is the deal he makes. If God, if you do that, then I will build you a house in the spot, and I will give you a tenth of everything you give me. And that was what Yaakov craved, and that's what Yaakov really wanted, and that was the piece that was missing from him. And he had this void until, I believe, when he met Rachel, and then it says, that his coal was lifted, his essence. He felt a new surge of hope. And he was able to, with God by his side, get through everything. God was with him like he promised in the house of Lavan, through all the trials and tribulations that he went through there in Lavan's house for many years and many ordeals. And he did eventually, in the long term, many, many years later, manage to return back to his father to bury Yitzchak at a ripe old age after he had a full life. But for Yaakov, I think the important message that we can take from him and from these first few psukim is that when we feel down and when we feel depressed and when we feel it's all over and we can't even see any more light ahead, only dark a day, God is trying to tell us all through this pasuk that he is alongside us. Just have trust and faith, cultivate a relationship with God, and follow in his ways, and he'll be there. He'll help you through somehow. You'll make it through the good and the bad. When God is with you, we can manage, we can do it, and not to give up even when we don't see, because there is a bright future ahead. Yaakov thought there was nothing, and everything came from him. All the 12 Shvatim, all the future, all the Jewish people, and wonderful things that are yet to come, be fulfilled any day now. So when you're down, depressed, just stick through it. Cling on to God. Kaveh Hashem, chazak v'amatz libecha. Strengthen yourself. Attach yourself to God, and all will be good, because God is with you. Shabbat shalom.